location, we received another call across the street.
That was weird. But anyway, hi, and welcome to Something to Talk About. I'm STALindaMcNamee, and as you can see from our introduction, we are going to be discussing Asian American awareness and acceptance, because there's a difference between awareness and acceptance, and we're going to delve into that a little bit further. But I would like to let you know that we are live this evening, so if you have a question for our wonderful guest, whom you will meet momentarily, you can always give us a call at 781-270-9199. If you have a suggestion for a future topic or a question that you think of later on, you can always email me at talk@bcattv.org, and I would be happy to respond to your email request. I would like to thank the crew for this evening. We always have our little housekeeping rules. Chris Flaherty and John Vias are staff members here, making sure that we get started. And Liz Gillespie, who will be a graduating senior sooner than we would like. I'm going to miss Liz. We also have Liz giving up her Wednesday evening to come and hang out at BCAT and help us put the show on TV. And last but definitely not least, I want to thank my husband Paul for staying home for Daddy date night. Hopefully homework is done. Now, all housekeeping aside, I would like to introduce my first of two wonderful guests, and she might be a familiar face to some of you. We have Martha Duffield, who is an AAPI activist. Is that a reasonable title for you, because you do everything?
That's funny. It's a reasonable title. I think in general I've tried to become more involved in the community and trying to help everybody that is feeling underrepresented have a voice.
Well, thank you for coming. And
Thanks
thank
for
you for
having
joining
me
me again. I think it was just about a year ago
Yeah.
that you were here, because I'm like, wow. Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you grew up, how you came to the Burlington area, and then what made you want to be that voice?
Sure. So I am a transracial adoptee, which means that my parents who adopted me are of a different race than me.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So my parents are white, and I am Korean, and I have three siblings who are also adopted and from Korea. And I grew up in upstate New York in the Syracuse area.
Ooh, okay.
And, a lot of times I was much younger than my siblings, so
Okay.
they had paved the way so that people knew who we were, but yet I was often still, in a school by myself as, the only Asian. And then I went to college at UMass.
Yay. Amherst?
Yeah. Amherst, yeah.
Ah, okay, my stomping ground.
Yep, so that was fun. And like many people do, I kept coming east.
To Boston. Because
Yes.
it's such a great place.
Wonderful place. And so I got work, and I met my husband, and he is from Massachusetts.
Okay.
And then he's got family in Burlington and Wilmington and North Andover. And so we felt like Burlington was a great place to live. And so we came here.
And you're here.
And now we're here.
It's especially helpful being close to family and relatives, especially when you have kids.
Yeah.
Because it's always nice for the kids to get to know their cousins, if they have cousins, and just have that support system.
Yeah, it's been great. And, one of the reasons we chose Burlington was because of the demographic mix. We wanted to see more diversity and have our kids be in schools with kids who look like them and different from them and all in between. So, yeah, it's been good.
All right, so you are also on the Burlington Against Racism. Is it a committee? Is it an organization?
So, yeah.
How did that come about?
So I am the president of Burlington Against Racism, and that actually started about last year, and it was in response to the murder of George Floyd, which was the anniversary on Tuesday. Wow, that was just yesterday. Yeah. So,
you're right.
So a group of parents got together and had listened to the protest and vigil and the high school students' experiences, and I think more people shared experiences of discrimination, and they wanted to do something about it. I got pulled into the group, and it was
funny how that happens,
right? And and it's really been great. I mean, the people in this group are so passionate and so smart and caring and really like to do good work.
Okay.
And so the initial focus that we had was actually kind of driven by Chiffon Wong, and she was the driving force to keep us focused, because it's very easy. There's so many things that you can.
Yeah, where do you start?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And so we wanted to get that DEI director position in the schools.
Which you have.
Which we have.
Starts July, I think he starts July 1st.
July 1st, contract signed. We're very excited about that.
Is he just working with the schools, or is he working with the town overall? Or do you not know? Do you know?
I do know. He is only working with the schools. Not saying
Which
that
is a start.
Right. Not saying that he won't help with specific town
Okay.
things, but that his focus will be the students, the curriculum, the teachers, the administration, and those types of
Yeah, because you hear stories about teachers in other areas of the country, and it's like, why do you even have a license to teach? You're scary, you know.
There is definitely a big difference between the what Massachusetts offers in our public schools and what I think the standards are in other states.
So, from Burlington Against Racism, is that how the Asian awareness kind of spun off of, or?
Actually, not specifically. We so in January, we knew there were so many good groups in Burlington doing good work, and so I think we wanted to join forces.
Okay.
So we started having a couple meetings, and we created the Burlington Equity Coalition.
Okay.
And so this group has 13 members right now, and it has interfaith community groups, it has identity and culture groups, it has like the food pantry.
Wow. And there's only 13 people?
It's 13 organizations.
Oh, 13 organizations. Okay.
And then we do have actually other individuals who participate. So your next guest, Qimei, she is also part of the BEC, even though she doesn't specifically represent a community group.
Okay.
So,
now, can someone still participate and volunteer for this?
yeah, so we actually, so we started off kind of with
I need to be quiet and let you finish.
No, that's fine. Both of these groups actually tend to kind of have a focus and goal, and we dive right in, and then we think about structure later. And so the BEC decided that we wanted to focus on the election, getting more candidates of color that represent our demographics in the town. And we wanted to help voters get more information. So we really thought about the different barriers to someone voting, which would be having accurate information, knowing if they're registered, where to get that information, and then knowing who the candidates are.
Okay.
So the BEC created a website for all the candidates to participate on.
Oh, okay.
And so it was great because...
Is this a website separate from Facebook? Because I found like a Facebook link that I was following along.
So we
which I found very helpful, by the way.
Oh, wonderful. I'm glad. I think we advertised it on Facebook.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an official www.burlingtonequitycoalition.com or org. Probably com.
.org.
.org.
.org. I love my cheat sheets.
And so we emailed and sent to snail mail all of the candidates running for office to participate on this platform, because what we wanted it to be was a neutral place where everybody had equal visibility.
Okay.
And then
like an equal opportunity thing.
An equal opportunity thing, because you know, many of the town meeting races don't necessarily have a huge cost to them, but the select board race does. And so you know, those types of things can affect your visibility, and we wanted a place where everybody was kind of starting at an equal position. And so we had kind of set questions that we wanted to give everybody the same opportunity to answer in their own words, so that then any future voter could go and read people's answers and say, oh, these are my same priorities. I would want to vote for this person.
Oh,
And so because I feel like I know I've gone to vote and I haven't known half the names,
exactly.
and then you don't want to vote for the wrong person. So your vote ends up being only a couple
Right.
pieces of the pie. And so we wanted
Right.
to help give voters the opportunity to be educated if they wanted to be.
You're definitely going to need to continue that work.
Yeah, and I think
Because I found it really valuable. It's like, oh, okay. Now, did you partner with BCAT at all? Because I know that they had a lot of the candidate debates and.
So BEC would, I think when BCAT would run the debate, then
Okay.
the BEC would put the link on our Facebook.
Okay.
So we definitely did not want to, we wanted to amplify
Okay.
as opposed to co-opt, right? So
Got it.
we're all working together to get the same result of candidates getting their message out and voters being able to be educated about who
Right.
they're choosing. So that was kind of our first initiative, which was all hands on deck.
Mm-hmm.
And then we've then now decided, okay, that election's
Election's
over.
over.
Let's figure out what our focuses are. And, so the BEC structure will be a communications wing, which will manage the Facebook, the IG,
Okay.
and all of that, the website. And then civic education and engagement.
Okay.
So
Tell me more about that.
okay, so I'm super excited that we collaborated with the schools to submit for a civic education grant.
Oh, okay.
And so the grant was submitted. Hopefully we'll find out if, we are the lucky recipients of it.
Okay.
To do curriculum and PD for teachers around civic education from pre-K to 12.
Oh.
So,
Wow.
so
Okay.
that's great. And then we're also doing, so then we have the communications arm, we have the civic education and engagement, and then we also have the events arm.
Okay.
So the events arm is where we circle back to the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month and awareness. And when the murders in Georgia occurred, Nancy, who is my vice president, is also Asian, and we were just pretty upset. And so we really were not going to spearhead anything because we were just kind of
Too emotional?
a little bit, yeah. And so we were kind of in the self-care mode, and but some members of BEC said, no, we need to do something about this, and so
Okay.
they pulled together a vigil, and we had some members of our select board, with planning board, we had students, and then Nancy and I also spoke, and then Qimei also spoke, and so it was great because we had a lot of voices in our community speak about our own experiences.
Okay.
And there was a great turnout. I felt like a lot of people attended, a lot of Asian faces
Okay.
came, and it was really
Did
nice.
you necessarily want a lot of Asian faces there? Or would you rather see like non-Asian, because that's the target audience that you're trying
to
to
support. I think that,
trying to educate everybody else.
I think that it's been, when you talk about race in our country, it often is very black and white race discussions. And I think Asians kind of fit into this
What about us type thing? Or
it's just its own category.
Okay.
I think that in many ways we face, discrimination and racism, but we also benefit and have privileges. So I think that it's tricky finding that balance of where your voice is. And I think a lot culturally, I mean, I was brought up in American culture with my white parents, but I think in many Asian families, you're taught to not speak up or to be quiet. And so for me, it was really good to see all those Asian faces there because it was like we were saying we matter.
Okay.
And finding our own voices and finding our own strength to say, okay, enough.
Okay.
And so that's why I was glad to see so many Asian faces.
Because you're actually having to change, not really change the culture, but change how some people not really interpret the culture, but like you said, you have to go beyond wait, I do have a voice.
Right.
So, okay.
And so one of the things that was
Never thought
great
of that.
is we have a sign-up sheet, and we created Burlington AAPI Facebook page.
Okay.
I do have it as private because it's meant to be a safe sharing space, and it's for Asians or friends or allies. And it's been great because sometimes someone will have something happen to them that feels bad or is an example of racism, and they have a support group that's right here in town where they feel supported. Or we'll share. We started sharing books, and one of the members created like a book, took all the books and put it into Excel and has a whole like list,
Like
and
a library, like a card catalog library. type thing?
categorized if it's like fiction,
Wow.
nonfiction, picture
Cool.
book. Yeah. And so, and it's also, some people will post about a new restaurant that's Asian owned, or, an event that's going on. And so it's kind of nice to just generate a little bit more community within within all of within the Asian community, because it's so diverse. I mean, I know that their perspective can also often be to lump us all together, but the AAPI community represents over 50 ethnic groups and 100 languages, and so each experience is so unique and different.
Okay.
And so it's nice to be able to come together.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Was not expecting that. I know that this, hopefully it won't get too heated. Before COVID, what was discrimination like for the Asian American community? Because I know our political system kind of targeted the Asian community with the advent or with the exposure of the COVID-19 virus. So pre-COVID versus now, how has that changed, or has it changed?
There's kind of a debate about how much it has changed, in the sense of, is there more incidences, or is there just more attention being paid to the incidents?
Right.
And I think it's
That's
both.
kind of what I'm trying to ask. I just can't.
No, you're good. I think it's both and. I think there are more incidents, and there's more attention. There's more people willing to speak out and address the discrimination they feel. Common things myself and my Asian friends have experienced is you meet anybody new and they ask you where you're from.
And you're like, New York.
And I remember one time I said Syracuse, and my friends, who were all white at that time, were looking to me like I was the inappropriate person, because I'm supposed to know that this person is trying to ask me. But why that's an example of racism is because it's telling you that you are not, not that you're not welcome, but that you're an other.
Right. Yeah.
You're not one of us, And part of why I'm excited to have the DEI director and have a more holistic and comprehensive view of what our history is, and have that educated to our children, is because I've had to educate myself on a lot of things. And so I'm learning like crazy all these different things that I didn't know. Okay. So one of the things that I have recently learned is that when slavery was ended, Chinese immigrants were brought into the United States to be the cheap labor to replace slaves, to be the cheap disposable labor.
Right.
And so that's kind of harsh. It's and it's an understanding that the oppression isn't isolated to one group. It can be for anybody.
Right.
And that, Asians have a long history of discrimination and racism as well. And so
and even like the internment camps from World War II, I don't remember ever learning about that in high school. Mm-mm. And it's like, that's pretty significant. That's very significant. Yeah.
And so.
But change isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to take a few years to like introduce new curriculum and new
there's
history.
going to be resistance to it. I think there's a fear that by teaching the accurate history in all of the good, bad, and ugly, will diminish the successes that have been had.
Okay.
And I think in general, most people don't want to look at their ugly sides.
In general.
You know, and so I think that it will be a struggle, but it will be a struggle that will come out better on the other side. You know, having these uncomfortable conversations, it's a good thing.
Right.
You know, it's good to listen to somebody else's experience and to validate it and to understand that it doesn't take away from your experience, but it does mean that now that we know, we need to do better.
Right.
So hopefully, you know, with this month of focusing on and amplifying and highlighting Asian American Pacific Islander heritage, that people will continue to be curious and want to learn.
Okay.
Because I think that it's very easy to other somebody and then they become dehumanized and then it's easy to treat them poorly.
Exactly.
So back to your original question is how have things changed, is I feel like the incidents are just more targeted. So I've had friends who have people saying, go home, you have COVID, get away from me. I was shopping in the grocery store and sometimes I was slow to understanding what had happened, but this man, he walked into a different aisle and his girlfriend said, oh, you're so terrible. And it took me a minute and I was like, oh, he went down a different aisle because
he's avoiding you?
He was avoiding me. So, you know, and it hurts, you know, and it makes you feel bad and reminds you you're not accepted and all of those things. And so I think that people might have always felt those things, but then post-COVID
now it's acceptable, or it has been, I don't want to say it's acceptable behavior, but it has been more
normalized
almost?
Yeah.
I don't want to say accepted because it's like, no.
There's plenty of people who don't accept it, right?
Right.
But yeah, so I think...
But some people, exactly, normalized is the word I'm looking for.
But I do know that many, many of my Asian friends who are able to not go grocery shopping anymore don't. So my husband does all our grocery shopping now. And that's just real. And then we feel bad that we have the ability to send our husbands or our spouses when...
But then doesn't it, I don't know, I'm preaching to the choir, but by avoiding your grocery shopping, that's allowing them to win. So what else do you have to take away, or what else can you not do because you don't want to put yourself in that uncomfortable situation because of the way others perceive you?
Right. And I think that's...
Where does it end?
Well, you know, I don't know. I think one thing I would like everyone to understand is that when you are not white and you're living in a culture that, you know, I don't know if preferred's the right word, but you're living in a culture that white is the majority or the dominant or the expected or the norm, it's very exhausting.
It's the power structure.
The power structure. Yeah. And so I always liken this, my family lived in Spain when the kids were little, and you get to have the cool name of expat versus immigrant, right? And cool. Because everybody there like speaks Spanish, it's tiring. It's tiring when you're an English speaker in a Spanish-speaking country. And so all the expats would hang out together and they would plan an Easter party or, you know, dye eggs or do a Halloween like candy,
right,
like trick-or-treating. And so I think one of the things where and that's accepted, that's like praised. But when immigrants here spend time with their own communities and want to celebrate, you know, their culture, it's looked at not being integrated.
Right.
And I think that what I would love to be able to start building the conversation around is that it's their safe place. They get to be with the people who understand them in a way that they don't get to be otherwise.
Comfort. They're in their comfort zone where the rest of the world is sometimes out of their comfort zone.
Right. And
it's not necessarily saying one place is better than the other. It's just different.
And it's understanding that it's exhausting.
It is.
to be in a place that you are constantly reminded that you are not welcome. And for me as an adoptee, I grew up here. This is my home.
But exactly, like, why do I need to alter my behavior just to make you happy? Or to allow you to accept who I am? Because this isn't who I am. I want to be me.
Yeah.
So, okay.
So many layers.
Wow, I know. We got to work on this vocabulary thing here too.
Yeah.
So one more question.
Sure.
That I don't know. Oh, actually, I have lots of questions. But do you also think that for Asian American and Pacific Islanders, does gender play as big of a role in the racial discrimination as maybe it has in other communities?
I think gender always plays a role in every culture, in every community. I think the struggles are really different between the genders.
Okay.
So for Asian women, there can be the hyper fetished perspective, and it's funny. I remember growing up, because I grew up in a very white area, I always had boys tell me they didn't want to date Asians, and then I got to college, and then boys only wanted to date Asians, and I was like, wait, I was like, this makes no sense, and it was a really big shift, and my sister and I joke about it because it's like you have to kind of research who you're dating to make sure that you're not just an object.
Yeah.
But I think on the flip side for men, they have the opposite problem where Asian men often get deemed as undesirable because in our American culture, we're very we want tall, blonde hair guys or whatever.
The Ken doll, yeah.
The Ken doll. I mean, and it hasn't become, fetishized, I guess. But so I do think gender matters. I think that the messages that get sent out to kids from the media, I'm so excited to see so much stronger AAPI representation in the movies and more authentic representation. I mean, Crazy Rich Asians, I don't know if it's authentic, but I remember I watched it with my husband. I was like, wow, every character was Asian, right? So the beautiful character is Asian. The goofy character is Asian. The jerk character is Asian.
Well, we can replace that one.
But it was just nice because then all of the different
they
characters
look like me. Yeah.
got to be their character. It wasn't a caricature representing the whole race.
Yes.
So it was just so great to see that on
the
screen.
token Asian and the token,
Exactly.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
Well, you know what? We are about halfway,
Okay.
and I definitely want to see Qimei.
Qimei.
Okay. So, hopefully Chris has the video ready. And this was a video that was put together by some high school students.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Letting their voices be heard.
At that location, we received another call across the street at shots
and you have
fired.
the
Just heard
spot across the
numerous
street over
gunshots
there.
coming
3
from
women were shot
across
in
the
one
street.
location.
Assaulted, stabbed, and killed. Wouldn't you be? The hate-fueled attacks on Asian Americans are disturbing. But why are we surprised? For many of us as Asian...
We are all born on this one planet, so why are we discriminating based on how we look? All the hate and violence in this
Wow, that was very impressive. And a high school student pulled all of that together. That is amazing. So, welcome back. I would now like to introduce my second wonderful guest for this evening, Qimei Ran,
That's correct.
who is also involved in the AAPI activist.
Mm-hmm.
So, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, before we get into the conversation itself, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and, you know, where you grew up, how you came to this area, and how you got involved in the awareness and acceptance?
Yes, so I'm from China. I grew up in China, finished my college, and came to the States about 20 years ago with my husband.
Okay.
We lived in
Is
Charlotte.
he also from China?
Yes, he is.
Okay.
We came together. We started our new journey back in Charlottesville, Virginia for 6 months. And then we moved to Atlanta, Georgia, lived there for 13 years, and came to Massachusetts
Wow.
about 5 years ago, and moved to Burlington about 3.5 years ago. We got a
Excellent.
house here. We lived in Atlanta, Georgia for 13 years. When I heard about the shooting, Atlanta shooting, it really made me mad and very sad because Atlanta is a very diverse city with different people from all around the world.
Okay.
Lots of Asians there.
Okay.
So-
that I did not know.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
and that made me really think that we should have something like a vigil or rally in Burlington area to make me feel supportive.
Absolutely.
That's how it started.
Okay. So, can you tell me more about that rally and the planning and?
Yeah, so because last year, last June, my family, we joined 2 different Black Lives Matter rallies. And then I didn't know who to ask for help this time because I know we don't have that many Asians in Burlington area.
Okay.
So I went on the Facebook page and found that BLM activity from the event from last year. And so I sent private messages to different organizers to see if they're going to do something like this year.
Okay.
And then Sherry Ellis.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, she's my ex-coworker.
Okay.
So I went to one of her Zoom meetings, and I talked about this. And she introduced me to different organizations, the different people, including MRSA and BEC. So everyone was very supportive too. Within 10 days, we got the rally.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Wow.
vigil done. Yeah, and it turned out really good. My son was very happy to see his teacher came out to support.
Oh.
My
great.
mother saw like white, other race people came out. It was a weekday afternoon. It was windy and cold, but my mother was very happy to see, people from different race to come out and support, and that made her feel safe and cared. Yeah.
That's great. So, one question that I, have, how big of an issue do you see racism in the Burlington community?
So we've moved here 3.5 years ago.
Okay.
So far, our neighbors, everyone is very, very nice.
Okay.
Nothing really bad happened to us, but just one incident, my son was called.
And he's
Steven-
little too. He's like elementary school.
Yes, on the school bus, he was called Chinese virus 3 times on the school bus. And that made me really worry about him
Yeah.
going to school. But that happened like way before, like last March. The pandemic just started in China.
Okay.
And then after that, all media, you can hear Chinese virus, China virus, all that kind of talking, and that made me also worried about my son going back to school after the pandemic.
Is he
So
doing okay?
He's doing okay now. He's doing the remote classes this year. So I think this all adds up. Also, the videos attacking elderly people on the street without any, reason, just because they're Asian. Because my mother is in her 80s, and she likes to go out and walk. So that also makes me worry.
It's got to be concerning. So have you noticed that because when you moved from China, did you know any English?
No, not at all. No, I learned Russian.
You learned Russian?
In my college.
Okay.
And actually, I went to Kazakh school, not Chinese school, when I was a kid. So Chinese is my second language.
Really?
Russian is my third language.
How many languages do you speak?
So now this is English, so my fourth. So after I came to the States, I realized that I have to learn English in order to live a normal life in this country.
Okay.
So I really appreciate my all ESL, English as a Second Language teachers.
Okay.
They taught me a lot. I took all kinds of ESL classes throughout the years.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Now, because of an accent that you have, do you think that that has also caused you to be a target of discrimination?
It might be. I can't tell because I grew up in China, not in the U.S., so I'm not that sensitive to all discrimination situations. When they see something or a look, I can't tell if it's a discrimination or if it's just a normal thing.
Okay.
I can't tell that, yeah.
Do you sense that the language barriers... No, never mind. Let's skip that. When do you think racial discrimination starts?
I think...
Like you're saying, your son was
elementary,
third
right?
grade last year,
Yeah.
second grade, third grade?
It can start from any age, any place, playground, at home, at school, in the library, in the parks, any place. It all depends on how the adult caregivers or their parents treat others.
Right.
The kids, they're innocent.
But they learn from
they
what
learn
they
from
see.
their parents. Yeah.
Do you think media has a lot to do with it as well? Like TV shows? I know Martha was mentioning,
I
that
think so.
television
Yeah.
programming is starting to...
Underrepresentation, yes. And also, when the media broadcast attacks, that's just a tip of iceberg. I would say there's so many things going on. I don't think each case will be broadcast or told to the public.
Right.
And I think there's some pics too. Like right now, we see most of the cases are like African Americans are attacking Asians, and I don't think that's the case.
Right.
So that's like it. Really, media plays a big role in this matter.
Media is trying to steer it.
I think
in the
so.
way that,
yeah.
So how did you get involved? Well, I know you already talked about. What are your plans for the Asian American or the Burlington Against Racism? Where do you see that organization going? What do you want to see it do?
Yes, I'm very happy to be part of BEC, and when they have some activities, I'm willing to participate and help around. I think really the racism is a really strong word.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think people are racist. I just think that people don't understand each other very well, and that generates the misunderstandings.
Okay.
People don't know each other very well. So I think the important thing is the education to the kids, to their parents. Okay. Hopefully we can have more cultural exchange activities or events at school, at the library.
Okay.
And Martha mentioned about a book list.
Yeah.
If we can have that posted on the library webpage, like people
Okay.
can, if they want to learn more about Asian Americans, they can read these books.
Oh, okay.
Also, just talking to your neighbors, knowing your neighbors, and people in this community, we should come out and, you know, just to let people hear our voices. Yeah. Even though I grew up in China, I was brought up like, don't talk, be quiet, just listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
How is it for you to overcome how you were raised? Because now you're
It's very
being
different.
asked to do something else.
Yeah, I feel like this is the time that you have to stand up and share your story and talk to people and let them know. Otherwise, nobody knows what's going on. They don't know. And if they don't know you, or they don't know what's you're been through, how are they going to be able to understand and help you? So I think this is really important. And I tell my friends, if you come up with some incidents, you should call the police, call 911 to report. Always report.
Right, okay. Now, you mentioned education during your answer. While we were watching the video, you said something really cool about Chicago.
Yeah, I heard that the Illinois, yeah, Chicago, they just passed, I think, it's a law to put the Asian American, to include Asian American history in their K-12 curriculum.
Wow.
That's really amazing. I think it's a good start.
Is that something that you hope Burlington will be, or Massachusetts will
I
be?
hope,
be
yeah,
doing?
I really hope that they will include that. Even myself or my son, we don't know much about this Asian American history until just recently. We've been learning on our own, just
Okay.
watching different videos and reading, yeah.
I think PBS came out with
Yeah.
something recently.
They have this documentary called Asian American History, and it came out last year. And now they are having it for free to browse on their website.
Wow.
Yes.
Have you taken advantage of that?
Yes,
or-
I have.
Okay.
My son and me and my husband, we all watched it, and it's surprising to see so much inequity going on throughout the years.
Okay.
Yeah. And we went to New York this past spring break. Went to Ellis Island. There's a museum there.
Oh,
It's
wow.
about immigration history. I think that museum, everybody should go and see it.
Yeah.
There's lots of, not only Asian American, but also Jewish, also Irish.
Everybody.
Everybody,
Yeah.
Black
Everybody
history.
used to go through Ellis
Yeah.
Island.
Yeah, it's a great place to visit.
Wow. Never thought of that. So, what are your thoughts or hopes for the new director of diversity, equity, and inclusion? Have you met him at all?
No, I just read the news on,
Okay.
I think on BCAP also, and I heard about it. So I'm happy that we have this position filled
Okay.
with a person like a professional who can lead the whole community, the school district, the teachers, to go to the right direction,
Okay.
to just recognize the diversity in this community, and to recognize each culture. And it's like a medium person that if something come up, we know who to go to talk to.
Okay.
I think this is really important.
I know I'm bouncing around, so I apologize for that. But you played a key role in the recent AAPI rally. Do you have any follow-up plans for other fundraisers, other activities, other outreach?
Actually, the visual or the rally, we can't have a visual or rally all the time, right? It's just one
True.
time, yeah. So after that, before the visual, I bought 100, the sign I mentioned, the stuff.
Yeah.
Hate has no home here, in different languages, including Chinese, Italian, Arabic,
Cool.
yeah, Korean. So I've been distributing those signs for free to the community. Whoever wants that can find me on Facebook and private message me, so we can
Okay.
put that in the yard. Also, I've been teaching Chinese kids Chinese online for free, like during the
cool.
pandemic.
Okay.
So now I'm thinking I can do that for our community.
Yeah.
I can talk to the library or, I don't know where to go to, but I think this is a good opportunity for people to know the language and the culture. That's what I've been thinking about.
Chinese, though, my understanding, it's a very difficult language.
It is, but it's interesting.
Because there's a lot of vocal intonations. And
It's very hard, even for Chinese kids, even for those who are born here. Like even the kids, like my son, we speak Chinese at home, but it's hard to learn. Yes, but that's something I think personally I can do to help to let the community know about the culture, and also each year I go to my son's class to talk about Chinese New Year. I think Chinese culture, not only the Chinese New Year, there's so much to talk about. So
yeah, tell me more about Chinese New Year, because I'm like, okay, it usually comes somewhere around February.
Yeah, January, February, because we go by lunar calendar.
Okay.
And we celebrate 15 days. It's a long celebration. In China, usually people get off from work for at least 1 week for the holiday. So people, the family come together to celebrate. It's like a New Year, but it's just Chinese New Year or Lunar New Year, we call it, because also...
Is it tied with zodiac at all, or is
yes,
that
it is tied with zodiac.
Okay.
Yeah. So family come together, watch show, and just to welcome the new year and say goodbye to the old one. And we have the red envelopes too.
Yeah, red
for the
is,
kids.
okay.
Red is a good, very good, like happy color in our culture. And we wear red during the Chinese New Year.
Okay.
Lots of food, celebration on the street.
We always have to have food for a celebration.
Yeah, always.
What's the significance of the dragon? Because each year, like you always see the big dragon, not really a puppet, but like lots of people under it. And
that's from south part of China.
Oh,
I'm from northwest part of China.
China's really big.
It's as big as U.S., I would say.
I think it's bigger.
No, bigger. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But we have much more, like 5 times people than U.S.
Wow.
Big population. Yeah.
Now, do you ever go back to visit family at all?
Usually, yeah, I go back usually each year, but not during last year, of course. And we are waiting to go back maybe next year with my mom. My mom is almost 81, and she misses her sister and her brother in China. So hopefully I can take her home to visit next year. Yeah.
That would be really cool. Now, has she been able to talk to them at all? Or?
Yes, we have. She has a little iPad, mini iPad that she uses to communicate with her friends and family in China. It's like a FaceTime, but we use a WeChat app to do the video chat.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's like 12 hours behind us. Or 12 hours, 12 hours different. Ahead. Yes,
Ahead
that's
of us,
right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good, 12 hours, because now it's evening. Now it's the morning time in China, and here it's in evening. Yeah. It's perfect, actually.
It's kind of hard to come up with a phone call, though.
So I always remind my mother. I said, don't call them too early, because sometimes she calls at 4 p.m.
Ooh.
That's like in the middle of the night in China.
No,
I said,
no,
Mom,
they're
don't
not
do
gonna want
that.
to talk to you, Mom. Definitely not.
Yeah.
So when you are teaching, and when you are trying to share the culture, what are your target audiences?
Hopefully everybody, I would say hopefully. But mainly, if I could, to reach the kids and the parents. I think they are the majority of, to spreading the words to the community. But I wish I can reach everyone. I mean, whoever wants to know about my culture, I would love to share. Yeah. But I think the kids, the young generation and their parents are the main target.
Okay. Or teach the kids to retrain the parents. That might be easier. Now, when you were talking about, talk to people, try to understand where they're coming from. Long time ago, probably somebody famous, was talking about listening to respond versus listening to understand. And there's definitely a difference in that. And I know I'm putting you on the spot, but do you have any thoughts about how you can get people to listen to understand?
Yeah, I think it's easy to say, like, put yourself in others' shoes than doing. Okay. So it's hard for people to understand really like what you've been through. Like, it's hard for someone who never left US and tell them that you left your hometown and go to somewhere you don't speak the language. You have to try very hard to fit in. That's very hard.
Right.
But don't expect them to understand you fully, but partially will work. Just open yourself and start the conversation.
Okay.
I think that's important. And let them know you exist, because usually we Asians keep our heads down and working and go home and take care of our family. Mm-hmm. That's all we do. We don't participate in community activities that much.
And do you see that trend changing now?
It's changing a lot from the second generation, not from the first.
Oh, okay.
I think the first generation is still, because we get used to it. Like, that
Right.
makes me feel safe, not going out, not saying something, because I'm afraid that I spoke wrong. I mean, I talked something wrong. Okay. So it's safe that you be quiet.
Oh,
but the
okay.
second generation is totally different.
So like your son.
Like my son, yeah. He will tell you like he's not happy and why he's not happy and what he thinks it should be.
Right.
And that's really good. So I'm learning from him.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. We only have like 2 minutes left, but what would you like to say to the audience watching now?
I really appreciate that people care about this topic, like Stop Asian Hate. And I really think that we belong here because we also live here just like everybody else. So I wish everyone can, spare some time and to know us, Asian Americans, and, just to learn about us. We are not the other. We're part of this country. Yeah.
Right.
So that will be really good.
The great American melting pot. And I think some people forget that. You know, it's like we are all at one point, we were all immigrants.
And we are similar in some ways and different in other ways.
Right.
We
But that's
also
how we
have
learn.
children. Yes, we are similar. We are human beings.
Exactly. We're all part of the human race.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm very glad to be here, to be able to talk about this and to have the conversation, to let people know in Burlington, we have a small Asian American community too.
Well, hopefully it will be growing. But, we are just about out of time. So I definitely want to thank you for coming and sharing your story. And I want to thank Martha. And I'm glad that you guys were able to connect. And I'm glad you were able to join me because I know we were supposed to go a little earlier, but I had to, family emergency. So I definitely appreciate your flexibility. So I want to thank you for tuning in this evening, or want to thank you for coming.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone at home for tuning in this evening. And I hope that the lessons that we've learned and the discussions that we've had will create more discussion in your home and with your family and friends so we can learn a better appreciation of each other. So thank you very much for tuning in. Have a wonderful night, and I'll see you around town. Good night.